Remember, prayer is powerful not because the prayer is powerful, but because the God who hears is working and acting, and He is powerful. Well, again, good to have you worshiping all together. My name's Jason. I get to be the lead pastor around here, and I get to host the service today, something I don't get to do very often, but it's summer, and things are crazy around here in the summer, and so I get to take my turn. If we've not yet met, I hang around either here or out in the lobby after the service. Would love for you to stop by and introduce yourself. And at the same time, if you have any questions, any other prayer requests, maybe as we invited you to come forward to pray, you're like, I do have something I'd like prayer for. I was just kind of a little nervous to go up in front of everybody. Hey, we understand. And so if you just want to text that to us, even right now, there's the number, 552-7794. You could send it right now. During our Sunday mornings, Miranda, who's our connections pastor, she's monitoring the text line, and we'll be praying for you and encouraging you. And if you would like that shared on our prayer chain, we can share it with our prayer team who will pray for you this weekend, this week as well. And so any ways that we can help you, that is the best way to get the answers and the support and the help that you need. And then if you are new, so glad to have you worshiping with us today. Would you do us one little favor and let us know that you were here? Or if you've been checking us out for a while, kind of hanging out in the shadows, and now invite this time to just step forward and say, hey, I've been here, and I'd like to know a little bit more. Just text the word hello, or you can scan it there on the seat backs there. You'll see the QR code and a reminder of the number as well to just let us know that you were here today. Two quick highlights that we do want you to know about. First of all, we've been sharing about our Back to School Bash backpack drive and inviting you to adopt a backpack for a family in need. And so for just $25, is that what it is? $25. Yep. Your donation of $25 helps a family in need, and we're almost there with the backpacks. So you can give. There's the QR code, and outside in the lobby, there's a table as well. And Bill and Kelly would love to answer any of your questions about the Adopt a Backpack. And second event that we want you to know about especially is young adults. If you are graduated from high school into mid-20s or so, we have a monthly young adult gathering that takes place on the first Monday of every month. The location is varied, and so it's just a lot of fun to gather together. Tomorrow night, because it's the first Monday of August, tomorrow night would be our next young adult gathering. You are invited. Would love you to have to be a part of it. And as you can see there in the on the slide, the young adults are going to go hang out at Merwin Lake. There will be food. The water's already provided to swim in, thanks to Jesus. And church will provide the food. You show up and provide your amazing personality, and it's going to be a great time. And if this is your first time, you're like, never done this before, don't know who to talk to, Amber was singing right up here and helps lead that. She's right over here. Or is Mike here today? Mike's not here today. Okay, talk to Amber. Yeah, talk to Amber, and she will get you connected and get you all of the information that you need. And lastly, thank you for giving to support our church. We just prayed for a whole bunch of students to encounter Jesus, right? And one of the ways that when you give, you invest in the next generation, and we value investing in the next generation, and so a large amount of our budget goes to support kids and students, and because we just believe in sharing Jesus and discipling the next generation of Christians and leaders. So just thank you for giving, and you'll see there's how you can give right there, online or in person. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we're going to continue our teaching from last week. Life Elevated is our theme, because we want you to keep taking steps with Jesus. Hope you brought your workbook, notebooks. You're going to need them. Open them up. Turn to, I think, page 8 is maybe where we're going to be at. And if you're like, oh, I forgot it, or I wasn't here last week to get one, I have some helpers. They are ready. Yeah. If you need a notebook, just raise your hand real tall and real high in the air, and we'll help you out. Anybody who's got notebooks available to help, pass them out. And I think some additional pens are available as well. Okay, We're going to start off with a little bit of review, so it's okay if you, by the way, if you missed last week, I would encourage you, go ahead and go to YouTube or Facebook, find last week's teaching, and you can fill in all of the blanks from last week, but we'll just do a real quick review to kind of get us back, and then we'll keep the teaching going. But before we do, so a few weeks ago, family vacation. And it wasn't like the family vacation, go to an exotic location, sit by the ocean in a beach chair for a week. It was like see lots of family. And last summer, my parents moved up to northern Wisconsin. That's right, about the only people in the world who retired and moved farther north, but that was what they chose to do because it was time for them to be around extended family. And so my mom and dad have been loving living in northern Wisconsin. And so we were there to visit, and my mom has several sisters and brothers who live in the area. So she organized the family picnic on like a Thursday night or something down at the park where it's kind of like the gathering place for our family, invited everybody to be there, and it was classic potluck style family picnic. There were 5 of my mom's brothers and sisters, plus their spouses, some of my cousins' kids. Then I don't even know my cousins' kids because it's just the family gets really, really big, really busy. But it was like classic potluck. Okay? Now just let that image. Anybody been a part of a classic potluck dinner? Okay, so you're kind of with me. You can kind of imagine what this looks like, right? Some of you are a little bit nervous about potluck dinners. You just never really know what you're going to get. There was a time when I was traveling with a singing group in college, and we go to various churches, and sometimes we'd show up, and there's a potluck dinner, and I'm looking at all the food, and I'm like, all the food on the table, all the people who are going to get fed, I don't know if this is going to happen or if we're going to have to get another like 5 loaves, 2 fish kind of miracle going on in the basement of the church. But there was always enough, somehow, by the grace of God. And what I've learned with potlucks is a couple of things, okay? Everybody just has to bring 1 or 2 dishes, and everybody gets fed. It's this weird, crazy thing. You actually can cook, if you go to a potluck dinner, you can cook less total amount of food than you would need for just your one family, and you bring a dish and a half or 2 to share. You put it all out there, and everybody goes home well fed. Everybody brings something, everybody eats, everybody goes home full, as long as you're not too picky. In which case, you might go home hungry. And so, one of my cousins, he grows tomatoes and sells them all over the northern Wisconsin area. And he had this like special seasoning blend that one of his buddies makes and provides, and he sells that. We put it on the sliced tomatoes, and my garden fresh tomatoes with the right seasoning blend. And then another one of my cousins, his wife grew up in Vietnam. And so there was this dish, and it was like, what is that? It had rice noodles in it, had chicken in it, had cabbage in it, it had a whole bunch of others, and it smelled really good, and it was a surprise, and it was the most wonderful surprise. It tasted so good. Never would have enjoyed it other than being at the family picnic potluck. And as I think about that image of like our family, and we gathered, and everybody brought something to share, as we talk about what it means to be a follower of Jesus and the pathway of following Jesus for the rest of our lives, that image of like the family picnic potluck in so many ways speaks to what it means to follow Jesus. And as we're talking about early even in our journey is to find belonging. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Let's review what gets us to today and where we're going to pick it up from today. So we said last week the first thing, our goal for you, we want to help you become a lifelong, reproducing follower of Jesus. That was early on because that's kind of guides everything we want for you. That guides our planning, that guides our time, that guides just everything we do around here. We want you to be a lifelong follower of Jesus from now till the rest of your life. And so somehow we've got to put the plan together and be ready to help you all the way in all stages and ages, all the way through the journey. We want you to be a reproducing follower of Jesus so that when your time here on earth is done, you get to go be with Jesus for all eternity, that there are people who are now following Jesus and you got to be a part of helping get them on the pathway and take several steps on the pathway. Lifelong reproducing follower of Jesus. Well, if following Jesus is going to be a lifetime endeavor, then it's more than just make a couple of decisions, you're good to go, and then just kind of coast from there. And I believe that the symbol and the imagery of a mountain and a path really helps to illustrate. Before you are tempted to think that this somehow says you have to walk the path to get closer to God, and if you just climb the top of the mountain, then you'll be closer to God with a better chance of getting into heaven. That is not what this image is describing, because we only get on the pathway because of the grace of Jesus Christ. You're never going to walk to get closer to God that gives you a better chance of getting into heaven. That was provided for you by the grace of God through Jesus Christ. The only way we get on the path is by grace, God's grace alone. Through faith alone, even that is a gift. Through Christ alone. That gets us on the path. But here's why we got to talk about the path. Because too many people think that saying yes to Jesus, thank you for your grace, my sins are forgiven, now I get to go to heaven, is just like all of our faith is just encompassed in that one ticket that we get punched to go to heaven. And as soon as that's done, that's pretty much it. But that is not the way of Jesus outlined in Scripture. He invited some people to follow him, believe in him, and to keep walking and keep following him for the rest of their lives. And spiritual growth often feels like an upward climb. Hard, long, taking it by faith, but worth it. So the pathway. So we're talking about the pathway. And we believe that the pathway starts at finding belonging. And so last week we talked about Ephesians chapter 2, verse 19. Let me just kind of read it for you here. Now you are no longer strangers to God, no longer foreigners to heaven, but you are members of God's very own family, citizens of God's country, and you belong in God's household with every other Christian. And last week, so you may have drawn underneath that verse there, your best version of a little stick house and a little guy or girl standing outside. And then we crossed that out because we said we are not outsiders, and that is literally the language used in the original Greek in which Paul wrote it. You are not ones who stand or live outside the house next to the house. No, you belong inside the house. And so we said this, we belong to God. Not because of how great and wonderful we are. Nope, by God's grace alone. We belong to God, and we belong to each other. And so we start with this place in which we can claim, I belong. Say it with me. I belong. Come on, say it with me. I belong. Think about what that means. You belong to Christ. He is yours, you are his. You belong in the community of Jesus' followers. One more time, come on, proclaim it today in faith. I belong. Okay, let's unpack a little bit more of what that means. If you would turn to page 8. What does it mean to be family? Because like we said, in those verses there, and in a couple other places, there are three kind of images for what it looks like to belong to Christ and to each other. The image of a kingdom, the image of a family or household, and the image of a human body. Okay? So what does it mean to be family? Two indicators of a healthy family. Number one, they spend time together. And number two, everybody contributes. A lot of families say, oh, we love each other, we want to be a good family, our family loves each other, but we just don't spend very much time together. I mean, love is spelled T-I-M-E. You've heard of that one before, right? Because it is so true. Like, I was thinking this the other day. My best friend, he lives in northern Minnesota. But I just have seen him so little because of life and just kind of the way the life goes that I have to say our friendship has drifted. And I love the guy, but I just don't know him as well. Can I really call him my best friend if we don't spend time together somehow? Two indicators of a healthy family is they spend time together, everyone contributes, which means on the flip side then, that two indicators of unhealthy families is that spending time together is a low priority. They just don't see each other. We're family. And a lot of times we say, oh, family is family is family. You're always going to be family. But just because you're related to each other doesn't make you close. We have to spend time together if we want to be a close and healthy family. And the other indicator of an unhealthy family is one person does all the work. This would be the opposite of the potluck. This would be a place where one person cooks all the food, does all the preparation, has everybody over at their house, and the rest of the family just kind of shows up and leaves. Okay? And you're like, oh, that's my family, and I'm the one person. In a healthy family, everybody contributes, everybody shows up, everybody goes home with some leftovers. As I share, when we kind of teach this in our classes, like you don't really want to be that brother-in-law who shows up to the family dinner late, empty-handed, goes home with leftovers early, and doesn't clean up. Uncomfortable laughter fills the room as you're thinking of people in your life. I just heard some really good laughter up here, so we're thinking about somebody. Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. You don't want to be that brother-in-law, right? You want to be the one who contributes, spends time. So what happens if a family regularly gathers for all these celebrations but no one really knows each other? They gather, we're not close. And so here's why we talk. If church is family, then it's not enough to simply go to church every Sunday. If you're going to be a lifelong follower of Jesus, you and I will need to connect with other Christians on a heart level. We recognize that one of the dangers of planning events is that it's really easy to show up to the event, mark yourself as having attended, and just because you showed up and attended, that you got something out of it. For sure, you did not earn any points with God that are going to get you into heaven any more or less, right? Again, all by His grace. So why? So let's talk about relationships today. This is really, really practical, and some of you are going to be like, I could have read this in any old book other than the Bible, but you know what? Maybe that's part of the problem, is that we don't apply these to our relationships, so wait till the last one, the last blank. Okay, here's what I believe, rules for relationships, that if you want to have close, heartfelt relationships with anyone, whether it's in our church family or anywhere else, these are some rules for relationships. Number one, don't wait, initiate. Too often, we will sit back and we'll watch and we'll just wait. I had someone tell me one time, she's like, I just don't, not here, a different church, elsewhere. I just don't think our church is all that friendly. If I sat over here and just waited, nobody would come talk to me. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you sit like that with your arms folded and a scowl on your face, they're not going to come talk to you. They're going to be like, she doesn't want to be talked to. Don't wait for someone to come talk to you. You got to initiate. And you're like, oh, but I'm an introvert. That's hard for me. I get it. Like that muscle might be pretty small. But the best way to build a muscle is to do what? Exercise it. And at first it's hard and awkward because you're not used to lifting those weights that way. And that muscle's like, oh man, you put in a little bit of effort and I'm really, really tired now. But you know what? Strength grows. Don't wait. Initiate. Rule number 2. In order to get, you have to give. So what is it that you want out of your friends, your family? And if you want that from them, the rules for relationships are that you're going to have to give that to them first. In order to get, you have to give. So my friend who said, I want to be talked to, was like, I'm just waiting for everybody else to do the work to talk to me. The best way to be talked to is to initiate, to give what she was looking for from someone else. And here is the reality. I don't like this one, but it is true. You usually have to give more than you think you should have to. So I think we all have like a little bit in our minds of like, this is how much I am going to give. And I'm going to give this much, and then I'm going to see how people reciprocate back to me. Here's what I've discovered. This much, however it is that you measure that, is usually half as much as is actually needed. People would say, I heard one guy say before, he's like, relationships are 50-50. We're going to meet in the middle. You know how disastrous 50-50 thinking is? You only need to underestimate, or you only need to overestimate by 1% to never meet up. The best way to make sure that the two of you come together is for you to go all in 100%. And if rather than just being 50-50, because then who gets to measure and judge, and then we just accuse the other person of not giving their 50 and blah, 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 blah. If we just both go all in 100%, we definitely will meet in the middle. Relationships move from stranger to acquaintance to friend. This is just how relationships are built, okay? You see somebody, you're like, I've never seen that person before, but they look pretty cool. For some reason, I think I should just get to know them because they look like maybe they'd be enjoyable to talk to. And you go introduce yourself. They share their name, you share your name. You go from stranger to acquaintance. You're not yet friends. Even if you discover we have so much in common, you're not yet friends. You're acquaintances. And now you have to do the hard work of pouring in, and hopefully they're going to reciprocate back so that you can become friends. Again, had an example one time, and another place, another church, and a lady said, I went to that women's retreat over the weekend, and I had a great time, and I met like 4 new friends. And then I came home, and none of them talked to me. I'm like, well, you didn't make 4 new friends. You don't make a friend in 2 days. You meet an acquaintance, and you find out what you have in common, which then sets you up for you to call them to possibly see if this acquaintance can turn into a friendship. It's just how relationships work. You're like, oh man, this relationship stuff it's hard work, isn't it? Yes. Yes, which is the next blank. Relationships are hard, but worth it. In every relationship, you will be let down at some point. Every person will let you down. Even Jesus. You're like, wait, what? Yeah. Because you and I are so imperfect, we put unrealistic expectations on other people, including Jesus. And if it's possible for Jesus to let you down because of your unrealistic expectations, for sure the other imperfect people in your life will let you down because of your expectations, their imperfections. Relationships are hard, but they are worth it. And the last one, these rules for relationships, they are not skipped by God, the gospel, or the church. See, again, sometimes we have unrealistic expectations that church is the gospel and forgiveness and reconciliation. That's just going to be like, I can skip the whole acquaintance. If we have Jesus in common, we go from stranger to friend. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. We never are let off the hook from putting in the time and the effort and the vulnerability and the risk to build heart-level relationships. But remember, relationships are worth it. You know how I know that? I look around the room and I say, relationships are worth it. All right, so here's the big step we ask you to take then. Participate in men's, women's, and family events. You see something happening in the life of the church. We talked last week about showing up on a Sunday morning, right? Now, beyond just showing up on Sunday morning, you see something that's happening in the life of the church, and that's maybe possibly in you or your age range, and we work really hard to try to have events and things that everybody can be a part of. Grant was gracious enough to let you know last week that even if you choose not to self-identify as a senior adult, no matter how old or young you are welcome to show up for any senior adult event. So don't look at the church calendar and say, there's nothing for me. Grant has invited you. That's all I'm going to say about that. There's jokes running through my head. I'm just going to stop right there. There's lots of events for you to just check out, to be a part of. And so participate. Just choose to do it. The men's baseball, right? And went out to the Raptors. I hope you didn't say, I just don't really like baseball. Because guess what? That event was not about baseball. Baseball was the excuse to show up. Sit next to each other. Get to know somebody. Stranger to acquaintance. Acquaintance pouring into to see if this might turn into a friendship. Hang out with a friend. Guess what? Sunday church is a great opportunity as well. What if you intentionally showed up 10 minutes early I believe by the power of the Holy Spirit, you can do this. 10 minutes early to go say hi to someone. What if, as soon as the host says, have a great week, you're dismissed. What if, rather than going to find your friend, your first effort is to go find somebody you've never met before, or someone you've only talked to once, and you go introduce yourself. And that's hard. And you're like, I'm going to build these muscles. If you turn this into a regular habit and practice because you value people, you will find some strangers that you really like hanging out with, and you'll find some acquaintances that you're like, we should turn this into a friendship. But we got to work those muscles. You see, at that same family picnic, I talked to two of my aunts that I have not talked to in a long, long time. Only later to discover, well, one of the aunts, she was sitting on this side of the table, talked to her a lot, and she really shared a lot about her life, and I got to know her and what's happening in her life. My other aunt, she was sitting here, she was real quiet, I hardly talked to her at all, only to discover the day later that she is the county chaplain where they live. And I was like, we could have connected, I could have learned so much more. If only I would have intentionally engaged both of them. But I showed up to the family reunion, and I'm like, I'm on vacation. And I haven't seen a bunch of these people in a long, long time. I feel kind of awkward around them. And besides, I'm kind of an introvert, and so making all the effort, it's kind of weird. And when's the food going to get served so we can just put our faces down on the food and sit next to the people I already know? It was hard. But in all those conversations with aunts, uncles, and cousins I haven't seen in a long time, it was so, so good. In fact, one of my aunts shared with me a powerful story about how in the last year, having lost her grandson, who was born with a birth defect that had a lot of complications, and at about 3 to 4 years old, they lost him. And the intensity of that loss has been so, so difficult for their family. But out of that pain, his wheelchair was able to be given to another family in need. And she was able to pour into another family, and she told us all the details of the story and how only God could have arranged that. I would have missed out on the blessing of that story, that connection with my aunt, had I just said, this is too hard, I'm not interested, I'll just go to McDonald's. Family. Okay, we got to keep on moving here. Page 9. So that's family. What does it mean to be a body? Okay? In at least 4 places in the Bible, the metaphor of the human body is used to describe the church or church, okay? And you look around and you're like, how can a human body be used to describe this? Well, here's how the metaphor works, then I'm going to read a scripture to you. In the church, and this could be, this is both like capital C church around the world, as in all, like the global fellowship of all followers of Jesus. There's just no building big enough to get us all together. Or it can be like churches like ours, right? So big church, little church, whatever. In the church body, Jesus is the head, and we are the body parts. So as the Apostle Paul is trying to explain, like, here's what it means to belong to each other. Family was one of them. He says you can also think in terms of a human body and the beauty and the delicate, like, just wonderful systems of the human body. How does the human body, like, how does it work? He's like, well, consider this. Romans chapter 12, verse 4. For just as each one of us has one body with many members, and when he says members there, he's talking about body parts, okay? Each one of us has one physical body with many body parts, and these body parts, they do not all have the same function. So, in Christ, we, though we are many, though we are very diverse people, we're all unique individuals, we form one body, and each member belongs to all of the others. I belong to you. You belong to me. I belong to us. And somehow we come together to form this body. Look at it says, verse 6, we have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. And so while God makes us unique, I cannot think for a minute that I'm the most important body part. Even if in our church community, I have the role of being the lead pastor, I cannot think that I am indispensable, most important, or that my role, my job, my gifting is better than anyone else. So whenever I think about like gifting, one of my gifting is to be teacher, right? Is a teacher gift. And if you go and you continue reading here, he kind of talks about some of the different gifts. Like there's the gift of teaching, there's the gift of serving, the gift of encouragement, the gift of giving, to give generously, the gift of leadership, the gift of showing mercy. And all of these are necessary for the body to function as a whole. So I have a teacher gift, right? Which means my natural go-to is that everything is a matter of understanding. I want you to be able to understand it. And teachers, sometimes we just talk too much and too long. But the last gift that's mentioned here is the gift of mercy. When somebody is in a hard situation, they usually don't need a lecture or a lesson. In fact, when someone's in a hard time, a lot of times what they need is for me to zip it and to listen. Even the analogy, sometimes the ear's far more important than the mouth. And if all of us were teachers, we would just talk. Everything would be a classroom. There'd be whiteboards all over the place. Ooh, that'd be kind of awesome. No, it would not. No, it would not. No. We need teachers who teach. And we need mercy people who listen and give hugs. We need prophets who say, watch out. And we need servers who say, how can I help? You see, here's the deal. If I don't think about myself, then the only thing I'm going to see about God is that God is a teacher, because he must be like me. He created me after all. I need all of you to help me get a correct understanding of who God is. Otherwise, I will accidentally shape God in my own image. So, we believe this. Here at Ridgefield Nazarene, here's what we believe then. Every member is a minister. You may not be a staff member. You might not get paid for your ministry, but every member is a minister in that we serve each other. What would it look like for you to see yourself as a minister? Every member is a minister. Every task is important. And every minister is a 10 in some area. There is something you do that you do better than anyone else in our church family, and we need you to do that. Okay, if you'd say, well, if we're all ministers, then why do we need pastors? Well, look, we discover in Ephesians chapter 4. He, Christ, he gave the gifts to people. He appointed some to be apostles, others to be prophets, others to be evangelists, others to be pastors and teachers. And he did this to prepare all of God's people for the work of Christian service in order to build up the body of Christ. So he gives gifts. Here's what we believe. The people are the ministers. The pastors are the administrators. Our job is to equip, to support, to encourage. In fact, one of the things that every staff member discovers is that when you join the staff of a church, you end up doing a lot more administrative work than you ever thought was necessary. But it's not just paperwork, and it's not just dotting I's and crossing T's. It is supporting people who are actively serving and doing the work of ministry, equipping and building up so that we all get to be a part of doing the work. All right, so we're going to close this off here with our final, for today, and then we're going to keep on going, our final challenge to you. And that is to join a serving team. And as you join a serving team, to grow in your faith. So like we said, as we put kind of the pathway together, we didn't just kind of, randomly put things on the pathway, but through our own stories and listening to the stories of people and quite a bit of research, here's what we discovered. We discovered a research study conducted a few years ago. Check this out. There was a survey of 1,000 churches and of their members as well. So 1,000 churches and 250,000 people that revealed some really interesting insights into how people grow in their faith. And they looked at when they learned and what were important and meaningful moments and the factors that helped them to grow. So 1,000 churches, 250,000 people. Here's one of the things, one of the things that came up over and over and over again. The study showed that the top-ranked church activity for advancing spiritual growth is not showing up on a Sunday service. Do you know that? Oh, that was pretty high in the list. It was high in the list. But all across the board, the top-ranked church activity for advancing spiritual growth is serving. That's the next blank. Serving. And we see that serving is vital at every stage of our church's pathway to go from finding belonging all the way up to change the world. Every step of the way, the 250,000 people shared their insights, shared that in some way serving, a mindset of serving and actively serving others was there on the pathway all the way up. So, we're going to ask you to join a serving team. To help you with that and to think through that, I'm going to invite Miranda to come, and she is going to help us with this.
Friends' shoes, and so I feel really called out that friendship is not that easy anymore. So, but what we really do believe here at the church is that everybody truly does have a unique role to play in our church family and in our community. But what we don't want people to think is that serving is just showing up to help out. Because it is so much more than that. It is when we show up and we serve and we participate in being the body together, it is a powerful way to experience the heart of God. And when we serve, we actually are stepping into his bigger story, something that sometimes we don't even see happening around us until we are willing to make ourselves available to the work of God. And so sometimes it's in these moments, whether you are showing up as a greeter, shout out to all the greeters out there who smiling faces as you come in the door, or whether it is teaching a class or serving alongside our youth or our kids, or stacking chairs after an event or putting out chairs during an event. It's when we begin to feel connected to each other and to God. It helps us feel seen. It helps us meet needs of other people. And it helps us to not just be known, but to start to know other people as well. And so serving really, truly does create this sense of belonging to not just the church, but to each other as well. And so when we give of ourselves, we begin to grow and our faith deepens and our perspective of the world around us widens. And we truly do start to become more and more like Jesus, who came not to be served, but to serve instead. And so if in Ephesians 2, verse 10, we read this. It says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." And listen, I could actually talk a lot of time on this verse, but Jason gave me a time limit, and so I have to adhere to that. You're welcome. But really at the heart of what this means is that you were created for a purpose and on purpose. You are God's handiwork, not just some random person in a crowd or somebody who comes and fills a seat on a Sunday morning, but truly someone who he designed for a purpose to do the work that he has set in front of us. And so there are a lot of ways that we can be involved in serving. And so I'm actually going to invite Jerry up. If you don't know Jerry, you're going to get an opportunity to do so today. I would encourage you. He makes a great friend. And so maybe move from stranger to acquaintance to friend with Jerry. But Jerry has an amazing story of serving in the church. And so I'm going to give that to you, and we're going to get to hear a little bit of Jerry's story. So Jerry, tell us a little bit, briefly tell us some of the different areas that you have served in the church throughout your life.
Well, it probably starts with the youth ministry years ago.
Yeah.
Pastor Bill Smith, and then also with Rick Good. And we started what they called a Friday night hangouts. and it was a skate ministry. And we would turn the family center into a full-fledged skating thing. We'd have over 100 kids, and it was a lot of work. But you know, it was so rewarding. There was one young kid that I threw him out about 3 times. I told him, you got to follow the rules. I had to call the police a couple times, but I always challenged this kid. And my wife and I were in the mall one time, and he came up to me, and he hugged me, and he thanked me. And it was like, whoa, you just never know. You never know the seeds that you plant by loving on people.
Yeah, I love that. And so you've worked with the youth. You've also been part of our buildings and grounds team that helps maintain the building. You go on Mexico mission trips. What else? What else have you poured into?
Well, I facilitate the 6 a.m. men's prayer.
Yep.
For about 15 years, I actually ran the men's ministry, the once-a-month breakfast and the Bible study. With my wife, we did a divorce care class. I've also done a class on hang-ups or something, I guess you would call it.
Yep, Hurts, Habits, and Hang-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
So there's been quite a few areas that I've served in.
Yeah, that's great. So not short on opportunities then.
Right.
To serve in the church. Perfect. So how would you say, Jerry, that serving has helped you grow in your relationship with Jesus?
Well, I think I have to go back like 28 years, and not about me, but about 2 lovely ladies, Eunice and Blanche. Some of you know them. I came in church hop for about 5 years when I moved up here. My daughters were 15 and 11, and it was a hassle on Sunday morning to get them to go to church. And then finally they said, hey, let's go to Ridgefield Nazarene. There's a great youth group. And so we did, and they went with smiles on their face. And I came in, I knew nobody. But Eunice and Blanche welcomed me, and if I missed a Sunday, they were on the phone. Where are you? What's happening? Are you okay? And that type of serving that they showed me in the very beginning was something that probably was instrumental in my serving now.
That's amazing. So it wasn't actually you serving, it was somebody who served you.
Right.
There's a message in that, folks. All right, next question. What would you say are some meaningful connections that you've made with other people through serving?
Well, we could start over here, and we could just go see 1 in the first row, 3 in the second row, 5 in this row. Actually, through serving, I've met just about everybody here. And it's because you have what Pastor talked about today, time. You get that time. You don't get that time walking down the hallway. You know, when you're on Sunday morning, you want to say hi to your friends, you know, and maybe we should say hi to those that aren't our friends, like Pastor talked about this morning. But we're natural to say hi to our friends. So we're not going to be able to meet new people unless, but in serving, it gives you that opportunity.
Yeah. So what would you tell others if they're questioning how or where they should serve? Well,
in the book, and the number, right, 360-552-7794.
It's on your seat backs.
You know, I don't know how I remembered that, but I did. Maybe I've heard it a few times up here. But, there's something for everybody. You know, if in the book, I was just reading ahead a little bit, and it does. If you have children, there's a children's ministry. If you have youth, there's a youth ministry. There's the young adult ministry. There's the seniors ministry, men's ministry, women's ministry. We have all these ministries, and we have all these functions. And we have a beautiful church building that also needs people to participate in helping it continue to be beautiful.
Yeah.
So there's something for everybody. You just need to take that step, and I always think of God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called. Mm-hmm. And I know that's me all over again, because I'm not a public speaker. I'm really nervous about getting up here this morning, but He got me through it.
Amen. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jerry, and thank you for all the ways you serve. All right, I'll take that from you. You don't have to keep that. All right, so you heard it from Jerry, right? No lack of opportunity, and we will talk very briefly about some of those. But one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I encounter when I talk to people about where do I serve, how do I get started, is that most people don't know where they want to serve or where they think they would be good at serving. And so I want you to check this out, because this was the easiest way that I could think of to help get you this picture in your brain of where is it that I could possibly think to serve. And so at the top, you have your passions, you have abilities and experiences, and kind of your serving sweet spot happens when all of those things converge. And so what are you passionate about? What do you talk about a lot? What do you invest your time and your money into? What are your abilities? What are you good at? Maybe it's not a passion, but maybe you're good at it and you can turn that into something that you're passionate about. What are some of your past experiences? This is actually something that I love talking to people about. And so after the service, you'll find me out in the lobby at a table, and I would love to kind of drill down a little bit more in there. But for an example, I actually love having people over at my house. I would say it's like a borderline passion. I love engaging in conversation and experiencing stories with you guys. But my abilities are paper plates and plastic cups. Okay? And I'm not dissing those who put out full spreads, because God bless you all. It is lovely to come into your homes. But for me, my abilities do not lie there. And so I am not going to force myself to try to be someone I'm not. But you come into my home, and hopefully you would have a great experience of getting to talk and eat off paper plates and just toss your garbage in the trash when you're finished, and not have to stay and help wash dishes because you feel bad leaving me with all the work. So experience, passions, and abilities. But more than that, I wanted to give you guys some opportunities to kind of figure out and start thinking about where is it that I can be most using my passions, abilities, and experiences here in the church. Because just like we heard in Jerry's story, serving isn't a way to earn God's approval, but it's about living out the identity that you already have. And he has had such a big impact over his years of service. And you hear that and you're like, man, I could never do that. Well, you can, and I'm going to help you. And we're going to do a game show style, because that is way more fun than just raising hands. So when you came in, you should have received a green card and a blue card. And if you don't, I've got a couple helpers, so you just raise your hand and we can get you guys a set of cards. And here is what we are going to do. We are going to play Would You Rather game show style with green and blue cards. And Cliff has to help me out here because I did not print out my questions, so I'm going to have to read them off the screen. And so if the first choice is always going to be green, and that is important, and the second choice is always going to be blue, and that is also important for a reason. Now, when you are holding them up, make sure you hold it so that people can see it. Don't be shy and hold it down here and be like, I think I'm a green. Hold it proudly, because what you're going to start to see is other people who you may be able to connect with over shared abilities and experiences. And you might think, oh, that person held up a green card just as much as I did, or a blue card. I want to get to know them. And it might be an opportunity to enter into some conversation and building some of those connections. Okay, so first, green, would you rather welcome and talk with new people, or blue, set up and organize spaces for events? Green or blue? Hold those up proud. I'm seeing a problem with this tied together. But that's okay. Green is on top. Okay, so look around and share. All right. Would you rather work directly with kids and youth, or help with everyday tasks around the church? So green or blue. No shame. One is not better than the other. All right. I see a lot of blues actually out there. So a lot of anti-children and teens. Perfect. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, next one, Cliff. Would you rather make phone calls or write cards to encourage other people, or blue, learn tech skills to run audio-visual equipment. Okay, blues, hold them real high. Is Jessica in the room? Okay, perfect. Jessica's taking pictures. We have some skills to teach you. And the key word there is learn. You don't always have to know how to do something coming into serving. We, as the administrators of service, the pastors, get to help teach you those things. Okay, next question. Green, would you rather pray with and for other people or take pictures and videos to share what is happening in the church and community or learn how to do that? So green or blue. All right, that's actually pretty even. All right. Next one. Would you rather sing or play an instrument on the worship team or organize or sort donations for community outreach? Okay, lots more blue. Sorry, Nate. Sorry. But there are a few. Oh, I see some blended over there. I like that creativity. Perfect. All right, next one. Green, would you rather help lead a children's or teens activity or join a group to cook and serve food? Which one would you rather be? All right, are you looking around, finding some commonalities with some people? All right, next one. Assist with organizing group events or outings, or help keep the church building clean and welcoming. Green or blue? All right. Grant, were you looking around? Okay, perfect. You see, I'm planting seeds here. You noticed that, right? All right. Would you rather... Next one, Cliff. Oh, that was it? Oh, okay. Spend time listening and talking with someone going through a hard time, or build or fix things to keep the building in good repair. So are you a people person or a building person? Are you both? Are you holding up both? Okay, it's very confusing. All right, so we got lots of greens and blues. Okay. Participate on a team to decorate for special events. Think VBS, camps, things like that. Or help organize and set up for worship services. I can decorate, but you have to tell me what to do. All right, I like it. So you guys, we should do this more often. This is really fun. Okay, next one. Help prepare and serve refreshments or snacks to people during events, or volunteer for parking duty to guide people during busy days or special events. Ooh, lots of both. See, you guys are catching on. That maybe I want more than one option here. That's great. Okay, next one. Okay, that was the end. So if you found yourself holding up mostly green cards, what that looks like for you is maybe you like to be what we would call maybe more of a people person. So even if you're an introvert, but you feel like you're more led to working with people, that would be some of these areas that we have for serving, like greeting or being part of the hospitality team or part of the, worship teams, things like that, where you're a little bit more out front with people, engaging with people. If you held up mostly blues, you might be kind of what we call like the behind the scenes people. A lot of support ministries happen there, and they absolutely cannot happen without your support. But the most important thing to realize is you have this list actually in your book as well. I just made it prettier for the screen, is that every single question that was asked correlates with a ministry that is up here on the screen. And so as you start to think about maybe what am I good at? What do I want to try? Maybe you don't know what it is, but you saw yourself holding up more greens or blues. Well, come talk to me out in the lobby and I can get you connected with a serving team, because that is what builds that connection. It's what helps you grow in your faith. It's what helps you grow in your sense of belonging with each other. You can go ahead and throw that last slide up there. And so if you're like, okay, I've been sitting on the bench way too long, I got to get in the game, you can scan that QR code, fill out the form right now, and we can get you plugged in with a serving team. And if not, if you do still have questions and you're still trying to identify what that looks like, I am literally leaving in 2 seconds to go out to the lobby to meet you out there, and we can talk about where it is best to serve, because I do truly believe that God has a plan and a purpose and a place for you to serve and to learn and to grow. And I truly do hope and pray that you take advantage of that, because so much of our connection and our belonging and our growth doesn't happen from sitting in a pew on a Sunday morning, but when we get up and we activate and we run towards working with God in the ways that he is already working and moving around us. I'll see you out there.
All right, thanks, Miranda. See, you get, yeah, we can celebrate. See, your day was made better because you got to know Miranda a little bit better and you got to know Jerry a little bit better. So here's the last thing I want to close with, and we'll pray, and then I'm going to just dismiss you. It may seem like serving is just a way to get the work done around here. And that's one of the results. But serving really helps you in your relationship with Jesus. How? Serving is humility in action. We all want to be humble. Serving puts that to action. It puts us in front of people. It gives us opportunities to work in humility, to engage other people. And so when Miranda asked Jerry, how has serving helped your faith? Did you catch his first response? I was like, that's so good. He said, well, it's not about me. And I'm like, that's the answer right there. Come on, pray with me. Jesus, thank you for all the ways that you teach us and grow us to follow you and to be less about me and more about you. Less about me, more about the people around me. Jesus, I pray that you would activate us in relationships and serving. And we are so glad to follow you wherever you lead. In your name we pray. Amen.